So folks, hello, welcome to another installment of Risk Unfiltered. I have the privilege, and I've been trying to get this gentleman for quite some time, because in the essence of full disclosure, we are from the same village, same area. His father knew my father very, very well. And so it's not just an opportunity, it's a privilege to have the Member of Parliament of Point Fortin, the Honorable Mr. Kennedy Richards with us. Kennedy, good to have you, and thanks for taking the time from your busy schedule to be with us.
Hey, the pleasure is all mine. It's always good to have a conversation with you. It's always good to support Point Fortin. You know, Point Fortin is straight, as you said, our neighbor string buried, and there was no South is love, you know. So
yeah, South is love, but Point Fortin is more love, and so
of course.
So Kennedy, why don't we start with you telling us a little bit about yourself? Because you do have a profession outside of the role of Member of Parliament, and then we'll get started.
All right, cool. I can tell you a bit. I'll be very brief. Well, as you know, I born and grew up in Point Fortin. I went to primary school in Point Fortin, and I went on to Destiny Government Secondary. I think you know, hindsight. They always say hindsight is 2020. After writing CXC, I would have done pretty well. I applied to Presentation College. I got through to Presentation College, right. But you know, at that point in time, youth. So I decided to go back to Destiny. You know, so I did my thing at secondary school. I went on to do aviation. I have achieved all my certificates and licenses and stuff like that. Regards to aviation. I also did physics at UE. I mean, regrettably, I still have about 3 more courses to complete the degree. You know, COVID has taught me something. You know, I was in my zone of comfort, and at that point in time, I was like, go back to UE and get that done. But I actually sent back in the application to just finish off the few courses, and actually thinking about doing my master's in renewable energy. As I say, COVID, yeah. So as I say, COVID has definitely taught me something, and that's a lesson I don't want to learn again for the next virus or whatever it is that may come around. You know, I lost my dad at a really tender age. I always wanted to be 2 things in life. One was to follow my dad into politics, as you may know, and the second thing was to be a pilot. The dream of being a pilot came from about 4 years old, and ever since I sat down in an aeroplane, first time I sat down in an aeroplane to go was Barbados, and then I think maybe a couple of years later I went to New York, and it was a 747 four engine aeroplane, and you know, and the guys pushed the throttle on that, and I made my small self. I went back in the seat, and I know I was told since I wanted to do what them guys was doing, you know, and that is where my love for aviation never really dwindled since. As I said before, I always wanted to follow my dad into politics. Regrettably, on his untimely passing, it came a vacancy for a councillor in the borough, which was the electoral district of Hollywood. So I took up that role at 23. I was kind of juggling UE, being a flight instructor, as well as being a councillor. You know, so my dream started to unfold then, and I went from being the councillor. I had 2 terms of that. My 3rd term as a councillor, I became the deputy mayor. The 4th term, I became the mayor. That was short-lived, probably about 9 months or 10 months. And I'm here now as the Member of Parliament for Point Fortin. It's definitely an honor. I must say also that I basically was the youngest to do all of that. I may have been the youngest councillor, but I'm not too certain, because I know Abdul Mason was also a very young councillor, but I am certain that I was also the youngest deputy mayor, the youngest mayor of Point Fortin as well, the youngest Member of Parliament for Point Fortin. So I just have, you know, some...
You have a lot of firsts under your belt.
A lot of firsts, yes. A lot of firsts under my belt.
As you speak, and so the folks who will be listening to this, by way of aviation, Kennedy is also a certified pilot working for Caribbean Airlines. So he has that going for him. And when we spoke earlier this morning to confirm this conversation, he was on his way back to his home from completing his 9 to 5 job as being a pilot. So as you speak there, Kennedy, and I was reminiscing about my father's role in Point and the days back then with your father and the Shaws and the Bruce and the Cyril Rogers of the time. So we'll not to go there. So because what we want to do is we don't want to look back too much, we want to look forward. So, and that's one of the conversations. So Kennedy, for those who are listening, the Member of Parliament for Point Fortin is the first true politician of sorts that we would have engaged with. We have spoken with, or I have spoken with through this Risk Unfiltered, folks in the academic space, big academic space, entertainment, finance, insurance, utilities. So so this is another first for you.
Exactly. I love to be first.
So I'm speaking to my bias as growing up in Point Fortin, it was sort of like incumbent upon us to have someone from there. So let's start. Let's start with Point, and then we'll extrapolate outside of Point.
No problem. Yeah.
So, and you know intimately the space I operate in, and because we have had a lot of conversations about what's best or how best to assist Point Fortin, particularly the youths of Point Fortin, and then maybe the youths of Trinidad and Tobago, because the environment of the world we live in now is so uncertain. So we talk about the velocity of risks. And so if we think of risk as only bad things, then I could say to you, bad things are happening so fast and will continue to happen so fast, unless, of course, we put certain things in place. Yeah. So the first question I would have for you, given what you know of risk management, yeah, and more so, forget risk management, the term, but let's speak of future-proofing the youths of Point Fortin and Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
What do you have planned? And I know there are constraints either by way of financial resources or time and all of those things. But that aside, where does Kennedy, which is the Member of Parliament for Trinidad, for Point Fortin, what do you plan on doing to help make the youths of Point Fortin a bit more risk intelligent?
Well, firstly, before I actually got into the whole space with regards to managing your risks and understanding what risk is, he was actually doing that without somebody telling you that you're actually managing your risk, right? So I think that that generally the majority of youth will understand. I think generally what is going to be most difficult, it would not be the concept. It will basically get them to understand now how to actually move in the direction where they, and I will give you an example where they need to be. I'll give you an example. Young people coming out of school, it's a confusing thing. I mean, I was in that space as well. You hit 14, 15, 16, 17. That's like the corridor of uncertainty in terms of your future, right? Sure. And if we look into future proof, the next generation, we need to actually get them at that age. When you're in Form 2. So before you decide you're going to do the modern studies or you're going to do sciences, we need to get them to understand that. Listen, sometimes before you pick that subject, you need to think 10 years down the road. Where do you see yourself at that point? Or not just where do you see yourself, what it is you love. And as a Member of Parliament, I have been doing different courses with individuals, not just firstly we attack youth businesses. So those courses are not just catered for the young people alone to assist, but it's also catered for me, as well as the Member of Parliament, to get a better understanding as to how they think. And when I get a better understanding as to how they think, then I can be able to assist them in terms of managing their risk and decision making process in order to assist them with regards to the future. Because going into the future is a big thing. It's a large thing. And if we don't manage that risk properly, then the term midlife crisis, not everybody goes through a midlife crisis, but that term midlife crisis is what's going to hit here, because you're going to reach 30, 35, you have a 9 to 5, you may be married with a few kids, and you're basically unhappy with your life. You may not be unhappy with your marriage and your family, but you're unhappy with that 9 to 5 that you have to go and work, and it's tiring. You have to wake up 4 o'clock in the morning. So you have to be able to see yourself down the road before you put yourself on that pathway.
Right.
And I will tell you this as a pilot. So let me bring it back into my profession. Right. And how we do planning. And this is how we manage the risk. So we get into a Boeing 737-800 series, and my job is to basically take 150 passengers, assist the captain to take that 150 passengers to New York or to Miami safely. But before we even take off in Trinidad, we need to understand what's taking place in Miami.
Right. Good point. Right.
So you need to understand what's taking place in Miami. So if Miami is under tornado watch or under hurricane watch, I mean, you ain't going away, right? Because it's highly likely that you're gonna get there and you can't land, right? So sometimes you need to understand what is taking place at your destination.
Good point.
And set the chart towards that destination. Yeah. Right. And not just start a flight that take off in life, and then wherever you reach, you reach. And I think that is a major problem.
Mr. Richard, you said 2 things there, and that I've noted. The corridor of uncertainty. I've never heard it articulated like that. So given the ages between 12 to 14 to 16, and that is so apropos. And I have lived the risk for most of my life, but the corridor of uncertainty is a term that I would most definitely use again. And then finally, the point of so when we say future proofing, and you correlated that with, okay, in your 9 to 5 that she's a pilot, so you have to know what the end game is. So i.e., you flying to Miami, you have to know what are the uncertainties there. Yeah. Because it's not just about the journey. Yeah. It's about where you want to go. And, we could probably end this conversation on those 2 points and we would have been satisfied, because oftentimes when we have these conversations, it's not just about us sharing or imparting information or knowledge, is to see where we could connect the dots. Yeah. So given those 2 things. So when we talk about, and actually I wrote that down because I'm going to use it, that corridor of uncertainty. So recognizing that population. And so let me step back. Part of the mandate of the Academy is to get into, is to make the young adults of the Caribbean, starting with Trinidad and Tobago, much more risk intelligent. And so risk is not just about the formalized or theoretical stuff, right? It's about, given what's going on in the world today and what will happen if we, or if you as the member of parliament, if the young adults of Trinidad and Tobago, or the young adults of Point Fortin specifically, aren't a bit more intelligent to deal with the world or the environment as it is now, you'll be literally pissing against the wind. Exactly. It's going to be a bad day. And so it's not just about Point, it's taking Point and pushing it across Trinidad and Tobago and I dare say the Caribbean. So as member of parliament for Point, knowing that the corridor, and I just love this term, so I thank you for, and I know you didn't Google that because I've never came across that. So acknowledging and recognizing and stipulating that the corridor of uncertainty for Point Fortin is that age group, that young adult, the folks who are trying to figure out where they can go or what they can do. And these are hard questions. That's why we call this segment Risk Unfiltered. What can you do as a member of parliament to guide these folks or to take them through this corridor of uncertainty so they come out, and not all will come out on the good side.
Yeah.
It's just a fact of life. But to try and ensure as much as possible, come out with the positives once they come through this corridor. What can you do? What are you doing as member of the point?
I think it's to bring awareness, and a lot of what I speak about is basically my own experience, and being somebody who's generally youthful still. I have some gray hair here, but I'm still youthful.
Yeah, and, there's something for that we call Just for Men, but we'll talk about that side.
Right. So being somebody who could relate to that catchment of people, as well as those a bit older, as well as those in my age bracket, is something that is very significant, because young people tend to gravitate towards me. So I would go to primary school and just spend 5 or 10 minutes, and one of the and people might think, you know what, just come and you may want to talk politics, but what I want to really find out from young people is where they're going. So I will throw out a question: hey, where you see yourself in 5 years? And sometimes in our class at 35, they might get through saying, hey, I want to be a policeman, or I want to be a doctor, or I want to be a plumber, right? And what that says to me is that 90% of the people in that class have no clue as to where their next 5 years is going to be, or has no plan, or no one is assisting them in planning. So my intention, and what I've started to do is, besides the training, is start to get teachers, well, the ones that they can influence within your space, because it's going to take extra. It's not just going to be the member of parliament alone. It's going to be getting the village councils involved, getting the other community groups involved, getting the parents involved. Parents is going to play a very important role in that, getting the teachers involved. And we have a lot of dedicated teachers in Point Fortin. I must add, those who would give free lessons after school as closed, just because they want to see the children do well. But that to me, Mr. Hackshaw, is an exam. That is an exam. And you could put any literature in front of me, and I could study it and pass that exam. But after that, what's next? The government has a lot of programs out. And it's only those who able to go and research, and those who say, hey, my friend told me that it has this program here, they alone will access it. So if we don't get that information out there and get that awareness, I think the whole thing is an awareness program. Get that awareness out there, because listen, I have done numerous conferences with young people, and the biggest challenge you have is after that corridor of uncertainty, you have those who have a full certificate, you have those who don't have a full certificate. And I mean, life goes on.
Right. So let's have a lot, right. So let's stay with that point. So I have said, and with greatest amount of respect to you and love for you, my friend, the curriculum of the schools in Trinidad and Tobago needs to be revisited. It just have to be, because they're not building, in my respectful view, and a lot of folks could disagree or agree with me, but it takes more than just. I'll give you a good example. So I did a bit of research. Do you know pilots starting off now in training are now exposed to things like risk culture? So if you were to go back in time and start well, especially if you're being trained in the UK or the US, right?
Yeah.
So things like risk mitigation techniques that you will probably know inherently, given the work that you do, right? And so what we're talking about is not necessarily, folks aren't aware. because I don't like to use that word. Folks are
Right.
aware, you know, but there's no structure to drive that awareness from awareness to action to implementation. The gap does not, there's a big gap there and there's nothing to treat with that gap. So let's go back for a second. So the government of Trinidad and Tobago, and so which is what you were alluding to. So there's a number of things, be it, you know, the training at and I think in Chatham there, the
youth camp.
The youth camp is back up and running. Yeah.
The youth camp is not up and running yet, but plans are being put in place to have the youth camp revitalized and a new curriculum in there
okay, brilliant. And kudos to you for helping to drive that. I am a big advocate in making or trying to ensure that the young adults of Trinidad and Tobago will have the right mindset to lead.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's a critical aspect. So when you go and you meet, when Kennedy goes and meet with students, that's a beautiful thing. But you are limited by way of what you can offer them, right? So what is your plan? And I know this is kind of like a heavy lift, I'm putting you on your spot. So going forward, how as the MP for Point Fortin and as a member of parliament, forget Point Fortin, you are a member of parliament, yeah? So though your community specifically is Trinidad and Tobago, is Point Fortin, if you are to speak for the youths of Trinidad and Tobago,
yeah,
what needs to be done that is not being done? And that's not the politics, that's just straight up facilitating and correcting or helping to mitigate that corridor of uncertainty. And I just love that too. We'll have to have a sidebar so you can get some some royalties coming out of that. But what else can be done that's not being done, do you think? I mean, it can't be just as normal.
Well, if we talking about treating with some of the issues that you spoke about before, the only thing that can actually be done is exposing them to risk culture, right, at an early age.
Exactly.
At an early age. And some people think risk management is a difficult thing. It is not.
It's not.
It is not. And risk management could be tailored to all different walks of life. Because
yes.
I mean, these days these days we live. I mean, Egyptian was one of the musicians, and he said that I mean, this is some serious times. So even walking home, you gotta calculate it's a risk, right? Yeah. Even walking from home to school, you say your son, I had some big dogs there, you know, I ain't passing there. But if I pass around, it's gonna take me 15 extra minutes. So I may don't go there either, but I can pass this way. So
right, to that point, you just what you're articulating is a quasi risk assessment. That's what you just did there.
Well, exactly.
Right. And so that's the mindset. That's the psychology we need to get into. And it's not going to always work. Let's be clear, because risk management is not the panacea, but it does help. But it's to get these folks, the young adults, having the ability to think like that. And they do it, some of us do it naturally, yeah?
You know what? You made a point earlier, and that's an excellent point. The reason why aviation schools and aviation bodies now are insisting that some type of risk management is done while they're training is because of situational awareness. Right? It's because of situational awareness. And in anything you do in life, risk management will help you with situational awareness.
Very good.
And just by, turning the keys in your car and driving, you need to be situationally aware of what's going on. So much as even for a pilot who has 100 and something lives in his hand, or maybe 200 based on the size of the plane, or even the man, everybody want to shop on Amazon now. But they don't know there's a pilot who's taking it from wherever in California all the way to Trinidad and Tobago, right? And he know if he's not situationally aware, that plane goes down, your goods gone.
Yeah.
So having that risk management culture incorporated in schools or in different training centers and stuff like that from a young age is what is going to help us treat with that corridor of uncertainty. That is what is going to do that.
And so you're spot on, and it has to start. I was having a conversation. We were having another podcast a couple of days ago, and the colleague of mine was talking about training the youths, and I said that's good, but the youths now are not the decision makers. They are not the ones sitting in the armchairs that says this is what needs to be done. This is how we're going to do it. From a business level and from a country level, the decision makers, for the most part, if they aren't introduced, or if these types of conversations aren't made available to them, or they're not part of these conversations, Kennedy, then we are spinning top in mud. Because I'll share this with you. Research has taught us that your ethnicity, your religion, your education, your training, your gender, your age determines how you view certain things and how you react to certain things. And my honorable MP, I have tested that thing ad nauseum in my own space. Yeah,
I believe so as well.
Yeah. So, okay. And to my folks, my colleagues who are listening, I have said to my honorable MP, and he is my MP, that the Academy is going to make itself available to do some training in the schools in Point Fortin there. So I would ask of you to identify a school that we can start with, and of course it's pro bono, where we'll do some workshops around introduction to risk management and risk culture to these folks who are living and operating in this corridor of uncertainty.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So we'll have a sidebar on that. So I'll just volunteer the services of my colleagues who are subject matter expertise in their own right.
Fantastic.
To do this. And it's part of the mandate of the Academy, right? And so I have colleagues in Barbados who are identifying schools. We could also do the same thing. But I would like Point Fortin and my alma mater is PFC. That's no longer PFC to be.
Well, that was the perfect school. That's the first school that came to mind.
Right. Yeah.
That's the first school that came to mind. And I'll tell you why that school came to mind. As I tell you, sometimes I have like days at office where it's just youth. I mean, things slowed down because of the whole COVID, but that days I was just tailor-made just for youth.
Right.
So young people, you have an idea, you just want to talk to the MP, you want to bring an idea, you want to just chat for 15 minutes. Hey, I'm all ears. All right. I used to set aside that time sometimes on a Saturday. And I met this extremely bright young girl. She said, well, her name is Kyrie Cox. And she's a medical science student at I think it's not Mona, it's Barbados. Right? Cape Hill, medical sciences student. So I was like, oh, I said, fantastic. I said, so how you did that, Cape? Well, obviously she had all ones, but she went to Point Fortin East, which is basically PFC.
Right.
And I'm saying she's exposed to the same environment as the other 99% of the children. Right. But with that risk training now, we can have more people like Kyrie Cox achieving what their end goal is. So achieving their basically the opportunity to arrive at their destination.
Yeah.
You know, because school is an opportunity. School is not a chance to be successful. It's an opportunity. It's not the end game.
Right.
You know, and all of this, just general life. And not just work and all of that alone. It's general life. General life they need to understand. You know, because sometimes you leave Point Fortin and you don't even go to UE. Sometimes you leave Point Fortin and you go all the way to Texas to college, or you go all the way to Arizona, or wherever you go to the US or even the UK. Right. And that change in environment is sometimes a full 180.
Kenny, let me interrupt you and ask you that. So we're talking about the kids in school. What about the kids on the block that you and I all know so well? So this is like you driving through Tissue or Captiville and the young adults hanging on the block, not too sure of where their future may be. Yeah, and again, you know, resources aren't infinite. There's only so much that's available, right? So yeah, we could do. So what I'm suggesting is not just, okay, we could do it for the schools. We can do for budding entrepreneurs, because everyone on the block probably wants to use the lingo of the street, wants to have a hustle.
Yeah.
But there needs to be some structure around the hustle. So if they are a little bit more risk educated, they may not have an associate degree or bachelor's degree, but they have some knowledge as to, okay, this is how a business needs to run. What is, if you haven't thought about it before, think about it now, but what is being done or can be done for that type of individual? And they may be there may be as much folks on the block as there is in school. I don't know the numbers, but how do you then, what's your plan to treat with the especially young males? Let's put it like that, hanging on the block.
So let me tell you what's the plan with that, especially for the young males. That's where the new advent of the Chatham Youth Camp comes into play. Mm-hmm. Right? So there are different type of programs. I think some of the courses, and I could give you here, some of the courses go as far as barbering, it's technology, small appliances, it's business training, agriculture in a big way, through by the homestead that the Prime Minister is very passionate about. You know, he's a man big on agriculture. Yeah. Farmer, yeah, he's a farmer with his farmer's badge and all of that. So what we are going to do is utilize that program and hone the skills of the young people. And through the Ministry of Youth and National Service, they're actually setting them up with a business. So under the Ministry of Youth and National Service, Medco is also there as well. So it's not just going to be school, and then you release them and they catch on their own. So if you come in there to do barbering, it's going to be your training, you're going to do your subjects, you're going to do your training, you're going to do everything surrounded with that. And they are going to set you up with the capital and the capital to run your business. So it's a small shop, the equipment, and a start. Okay. And seeing that you would have offered your services. Yeah. Right? That is something that we can now catch them on ground floor. So while they're learning and they're honing their skills, they could also understand how to calculate their risk as a business person going forward. Yeah. As I said before, everybody want to be a hustler, right? Yeah. But it's more than that. Yeah. It's more than that.
Yeah, it has to be. And okay, so how do you then share that? Because it will matter very little if you take the conversations we have and your understanding of risk intelligence and only use that as it speaks to Point Fortin, and not try to bring some of your fellow MPs or parliamentarians along that space. So what is Kennedy Richards prepared to do to increase that bandwidth?
It's simple. Everybody wants to be associated with success. Everybody wants to be a winner. So as you say, we get your services in there, we get the services and TC, and we show the final product. We show how it helps them win. Hey, it's sold. I don't need to go and convince anybody, because the result will show for itself. It comes just like, you remember the little video that I did with the mayor's grant when I was in mayor? Right. Went viral. Everybody wanted to be associated with that. Right. So you have an idea, and the best way to sell the idea is to show how it works. Right. Show the successes of it. Show the successes of it. Yeah. You show the success story, and the rest is history. Yeah. Interesting point, because so since you have signed on, not voluntarily, to be part of what the Caribbean Risk Management Academy can offer. So yes, we will definitely start as part of the Trinidad and Tobago arm of it, with Point and you identifying the schools up to and including the youth camp, because it's much more than the theoretical
or academic side. And I was having a conversation this morning along with my colleague Natasha, with the head of biosecurity at Keville, that the Caribbean Risk Management Academy is partnering to build certain workshops. Yeah. So Kennedy, and Point is big on wildlife, on things the good. I had a conversation many months ago, hence the reason we continue to have these conversations, as to if you understand the kind of risk there is in hunting and eating wildlife, and I know you probably is a lap and a goatee man and whatever. but so when, just like you use the term corridor of uncertainty, he used the word border security. And he didn't mean from a national security perspective. He meant literally your home. So your border security is your doors and your windows. How well are they positioned to prevent pathogens and stuff from coming in to impact you, your wife, and your children? That's how granular and serious it gets. And folks, it's not on the agenda of many folks. So that's why we had a meeting this morning. So we'll be rolling out a workshop that marries that with climate risk, and so there's a lot coming, and that's where the folks, the young adults who will be the future decision makers, they have to know about that. So when we talk about this term called ESG, which is environmental and social governance, folks need to know about that. Kids, young adults need to know about that. When we talk about risk intelligence, and how your attitude and behavior could determine whether you succeed or fail, they need to know about that. It's not just the marketing and the arithmetic around a business anymore. The environment has been way past that. Any questions or comments for my honorable MP? Kelly, let's start with you.
I was wondering, how do you think we could infuse risk management in terms of governance? Because I know we have been speaking about risk management in schools, but now that we have to deal with present day problems, what do you think some of the engagement that we could do in terms of getting a different type of leadership, more transformational leadership, to thrust our, economic recovery forward? What are some of your thoughts on that?
Well, that is a
heavy
tough question. Heavy question. That's a tough question. I'm of the belief that that type of risk management should have been at various levels already. If you look at the private sector, and my dad used to work for CRMA. And on the vacation, we used to have vacation training program. So that was the first place that I was exposed to risk. And let me tell you something. A wrench is not picked up if a risk assessment is not done and not completed, and everyone who is surrounded with respect to that job understands what are the inherent risks with regards to that job. So if that was something that was being done, my dad died in 2008, which is quite a while ago, and that was being done since early 2000s kind of thing. So if that was done then, that type of culture should have been picked up already by various ministries. Let me give a quick example. WASA, for instance. And I give you that example because they just embarked on a project in Point Fortin. When I say just, it's like a year and something that the project ran for. But the project initially was to run for 3 months. And if the minister didn't personally get involved in the project and set up back orders, the project may have still been going on or no. And that is some of the problems that we would always have with regards to getting productivity and having proper and having governance structures in the government with regards to government agencies. So it's something that should be done, or should have been done. However, the past is the past. and going forward, we need to see that actually coming place. I know that it's something that would be, they will start to get the balls rolling with regards to risk in this term of government. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that the success is what's going to get the risk all over various ministries, right? Mm-hmm. Because that could change the whole governance structure and change the whole game. And not everybody's invested in having that, in having productivity, and
accountability.
And accountability. Yeah. And accountability being the number one thing. Yeah. So I do think that risk management should play a major role with regards to the governance structure, with regards to state agencies. And I think we will be seeing that coming more and more to the forefront as
so Kennedy, to put this on your lap, would you, and I'm and this is kind of a rhetorical question because I believe you do it now, but understanding the value of what we are talking about to both the communities like Point Fortin or the ministries, and the ministries and state agencies. So would you be an advocate to speak with your fellow MPs and ministerial colleagues as to, listen, we need to get this thing in place? Because
I would definitely be an advocate for it, because I know what it means to me personally.
Right.
As a pilot and as the member of parliament for Point Fortin.
Yeah. I
saw where having a proper risk policy in place could have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars on our job. So I think that is definitely.
Well, we definitely need you to be that advocate. South is Love Chairman, CEO, and friend of the MP. Questions, comments, Anisha?
Yeah, basically, I just have a comment with what you would have spoken of from the perspective of an MP. There, a lot of what you said, especially being youth focused and youth centered, that is something that some MPs would have focused on already, and some MPs are looking at. You are a young MP with regard to risk management, even before you get into that, a strategic plan. I realize that you have a strategic plan that you are working with. And I think that MPs themselves, you could see sometimes when some MPs don't have a strategic plan. And I think that even before you start to look at the risk, well, that involves risk, but this is something that we should look at getting all MPs on board with. Having a proper strategic plan, having a proper risk assessment of your constituency, because some just get into the job based on experience. I'm seeing some just getting into the job and just saying, what do we have to do? We have to fix 2 roads, we have to do this, that's it. But not really looking at the constituency or their areas holistically. So I think what you spoke of today would benefit a lot of the other MPs.
I think there are a lot of young member of parliament, and they have a lot of plans. Youth tend to gravitate towards youth,
right?
And that's the reality, right? They would gravitate to someone who they feel understands what they're going through. And as the man say, you're on the ground, that kind of thing. Not to say that other MPs are not on the ground, but they would gravitate to somebody who they feel connected to. And what I try to do is, even though I may not have a strong connection to one area, I try to seek out the person who has that strong connection. So that assists you as a member of parliament in terms of building a relationship. And when you build a relationship, you build trust. And when you build trust, then you can have dialogue. And that's the only way you could actually help, because it must be a mutual consent, because you can't teach somebody something if they don't want to learn. So we need to build, it's about building trust.
So if you haven't, and I know philosophically and fundamentally, you have a strategic plan for your constituent or for your area of Point Fortin. But do you have, and if not, the academy, me and my team stands ready and able to assist you with this. But do you have a formal, documented strategic plan to take Point Fortin? And you know, currently in this space, I don't think about no 5-year plan. It has to be.
I didn't think about that 5-year.
Yeah, no, it has to be a little bit more short term. So let me say, do you have like a 2-year strategic plan for Point Fortin? Documented and
I don't.
If not, that's okay.
I don't have I have 2 things I had. Before election, I sat down, firstly with myself, and I went through the entire constituency, and I saw and I put down paper what are the needs, physical needs, what are the needs with regards to education, what are the needs with regards to social development, and I placed those pointers and then I put them in order priority for me.
Right.
And coming out of the election now, I set up a team, and that team is to do the development plan. Because what I had before was pointers. Was to do a development plan, and that development plan will deal with things like energy and energy industry, because point is that, right? Right. And as the MP, I must, if Stuart Young is given, Minister Young is given a energy symposium, and he is saying something, I should be able to now follow what he is saying and take a lead as a member of Parliament to ensure that those energy industries are basically up to scratch in terms of where the government wants them to be or what it's supposed to be. So I have that long-term plan, but to say put it into 2 years, I have not done that. What I have done though is have short-term plans, but more pointers. So
okay. So let me
I have not said
right. So let me volunteer these services. So Natasha, who's on this call, who asked that question, her subject matter, one of her subject matter expertise is around strategic planning. Right?
Okay.
So I am volunteering, assisting you in developing a strategic plan that's going to be risk-based for the constituency of Point Fortin. Okay?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Natasha, you have any questions for Kennedy?
Yes, I would ask, in a nutshell, what his vision is for the constituency.
Mm-hmm.
He spoke quite eloquently about youth and the kind of support and guidance you're giving the youth. But for the constituency as a whole, what is your vision for the constituency?
But that is simple. As I said, I sat down and I have sectioned it off into different categories. But in a nutshell, I would like to see a vibrant community that is more business oriented. So in terms of instead of us Point Fortin areas as we see, leaving Point to go to Porterspeed to shop, we can have people coming into Point Fortin and we can be providing those services. I see Point Fortin as also a hub for agriculture, because we have a vast amount of land, especially in the Chatham area, that part of the constituency, Chatham Burners areas, which is basically linked via some connector roads. So when I had the opportunity to have the Minister of Youth and National Service come down, and we spoke about operationalizing that almost 500 acres of farmland, right? So that is so I see Point Fortin be the bread basket of the country as well, which will give us an additional output towards the country. So we're looking at creating more employment via small businesses, via agricultural industry. We have a lot of training centers, so we can create that training. And even if we don't have all the jobs people here, we can even export somebody talent out to other countries on a short-term basis, because we don't want to lose all our skilled people. But there are a lot of plans and stuff like that throughout the United States and other parts of this world, Angola as well, would have come into Point Fortin and taken up the skillful technicians and stuff like that people out there. I have a cousin who works in Russia. right? He's a technician. He started right here in Fortin. So that is basically it with regards to that. At one point in time, we also used to have the most university grads per capita. So we want to get that going back, and not just graduating from university with a degree that is not going to land you a job, but graduating from the university with something substantial that could assist the country in actually moving forward. Whether it's via technology or whether it's just some creative idea that you could come up with, to change the way we operate in this country. My whole thing is to create change and not just fix box drain and build roads. Yes, we have plenty of roads over there in Fortin, right? And the physical infrastructure is being treated with. I have dealt with all of that. But I think my main focus would be actually changing the mindset and minds of people. And I think once I can get that done, I think I can be an MP for as long as I want, because I would have satisfied the needs of the people are and to grow. So it's plenty, but that's basically it in a nutshell. So I just want to see Fortin be a more vibrant and bustling community that actually provides services instead of we taking services from elsewhere.
That's a great answer. I must say though, you didn't mention the energy services like Train One and the conversations around Train One, but we'll leave that for another episode. Good. So MP Kennedy Richards, and I want to thank you for taking the time. It's been both instructive, informative, and but we stand ready to assist you in getting those folks in that corridor of uncertainty. I think you should patent those words, because I'm going to use it ad nauseum. Those young adults in that corridor, that space in Point.
Yeah.
But you are the first to do this. And so credit to you and to the community of Point Fortin, my home and my alma mater of PLC. So again, I thank you, and I'll give you the opportunity for some last and parting words.
Well, let me just say thank you, Ken, for the invite and the opportunity to just have this little discourse tonight. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's always good talking to you, talking to risk managers, talking about risk, stuff like that. It's something that is exciting. I think when people hear it, it might be kind of, hey, there's something that is not so exciting, but it's something that is exciting, and it's something that excites me as a pilot. It's something that excites me as a member of parliament, and I'm glad that you could also have your team here with you. I would love the opportunity, and thank you for also giving me the opportunity to work with these ladies to actually assist in terms of building that product of what Point Fortin is. I'm truly blessed to have the opportunity to do so, because it's not really easy to be a member of parliament. That is it's a 24-hour job. You had to have love to actually do this type of job. And I'm doing this for the people I grew up amongst. I'm doing this for the people who went before, people like your dad. Your dad, who would have
so just to end, so we talk about risk management as a life skill, and so you have followed the path of your father, and may rest in eternal peace as I wish for mine as well. So my friend and colleague, I want to thank you so much, and thank you much. Continue to be safe. And go forth and multiply the information and the experience, my honorable MP.
Thank you much, brother. I will do.
Okay.
Have a blessed night, everyone.
All right. Cheers. Thanks.